Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com. I'm live at Edley's in Berry Farms, one of the very best places to eat, especially if you're counting all the other Edleys around Middle Tennessee and in Nashville. Come check it out. Eat great barbecue at reasonable prices, or order it to your home with their fine and inexpensive app. We're going to talk about a lot of Titans material today and going to take your questions as always. Listen, how much higher is the Titans floor? We've been talking about that. They've brought in a lot of depth. We're going to look at just how much better the back end of their roster in particular is. But how much better is this team floor-wise? Look at bonus mechanism they're using to try to attach some of the money, at least, that they're paying a lot of these new guys to availability. We're going to look at guard, or interior offensive line, at least. We've been talking end, and we've been talking receiver. We've been talking cornerback. But this center and right guard hole, the holes at those two positions are very serious. Is it, in fact, possible that they wouldn't wait until 101 in the fourth round, but they're not going to use 4. If they traded down out of 4, could they conceivably spend 14, 15, something like that on a guard? Offensive lineman, again, would be rough. 35-66. Could it be in play that high in the draft? Love You Blues asking that. What's the earliest the Titans could look for a center in the draft? We'll talk about that. Good to see you. Welcome in. Hope your big weekend is shaping up nicely. Got some Sweet 16 and Elite 8 going on this weekend, opening day. I don't know if you saw that there's getting rave reviews for this smoke flag that was in right field for the Giants game. It's a lovely flag that makes itself, up in right field in smoke. Everybody loves the flag. But what about the smoke that then covers the field for 3 innings and makes it hard to watch the game? Nobody's talking about that. So I don't care if the visual of the introduction is fantastic if I can't see the game for 3 innings because the field's covered in smoke. People are forgetting to talk about that. I can't have the field covered in smoke for 3 innings as a trade-off for the beautiful visual during introductions. Whatever happened to signing Zeitler? Still a possibility. He's unsigned. I don't know what the delay is. It would seem maybe, I think the money would be pretty predictably around $8 or $9 million. Maybe he wants to wait. Maybe more likely they want to wait. That would suggest they want to see what's up in the draft. Maybe they want to see Brasillo wants to get Slater on the field, get Volson on the field, see what they think they have in those spots. I don't know. Going to the owners' meetings Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in Arizona. Maybe we'll get a better feel of that. I hope so. But look, they don't have a game for 6 months or something like that. So we'll get it, it's not a super hurry. Ban T-Rack. Lee Jordan sent me an email. He's with me on T-Rack. Assuming health to major players. What is the earliest the Titans look for a center? We talked about that. Favorite time of the week. Thanks. Caden Duncan, I don't recognize your name. Are you a member of our fine site? If not, we need you on board. And Love You Blue likes this way to close out the week. Let's look at how much better the Titans' floor is. Now, I've got the end-of-season depth chart, which obviously misses some guys for injury. I'll hide over here on the side. So, at the end of the season, Calvin Ridley was obviously out hurt. And they were fielding James Prochet at one wide receiver spot with DK and Io Manor. Now, if we flip over to the offensive depth chart that I'm keeping track of it, paulkuharsky.com. They've got Ridley. They've got Wan'Dale Robinson and DK. You know, and Io Manor, I think we kind of underestimate. We've zipped DK past Io Manor. Io Manor came in as the more promising of the two as receiver. He kind of stalled out as a rookie, and DK took off a little bit. But I wouldn't say that DK is guaranteed to be the better of the two wide receivers there. But you got Ridley, DK, Robinson as the starters, Io Manor as the chief piece of depth there. I think they're definitely drafting one who would be a top 4 guy for sure, top 5 guy for sure. Bryce Oliver would be down then to the bottom of that barrel. After that, you're looking for Kinsey and Restrepo to get pushed out. Hal Presley, a non-factor here. How much better is the floor at wide receiver? I'd say significantly better. You're getting Ridley back health-wise. You're getting a more mature DK and Io Manor. Robinson, not, everything he's cut out to be, but he's a guy, 1,000-yard receiver, going to be a reliable underneath target with yak potential for Cam Ward. That's an upgrade. This draft pick I would expect to come in the first 3 rounds should be an upgrade. If it comes in the first 3 rounds, he's at least a round better than DK and Io Manor. Oliver I like. He was hurt most of the last year. He's got some promise. Kinsey and Restrepo, I got to get him out of that slot over there where I've got him behind DK and Oliver and just leave him in the slot. So is it better at wide receiver? Yeah. Let's look here. Tight end. Look, you're losing the catch potential and the run after catch potential of Okonkwo. But you've upgraded there, I think, in a big way, blocking-wise, with Bellinger. The floor is really about the depth after that. David Martin Robinson's was the 3rd last year. You flip to this year, and you're looking at Gunnar Helm, Bellinger, Tyler Granson has done some things as a pass catcher. David Martin Robinson conceivably kicked to 4th if they keep forward. Joel Wilson, a non-factor, I would think. Helm and Bellinger, as opposed to Okonkwo and Helm, different. More traditional 2 tight end possibilities here with true blocking potential and some catch potential. Helm, it's not going to be as good probably overall after the catch with Okonkwo. Your tight end's not going to be your leading receiver anymore. I think that's a good thing. Is the floor up? I'd say it's the same, if not better. Same, if not better. We'll look at what they have on the offensive line now. I think, Moore, Skoronski, Latham as starters, the same. Center, Cushenberry wasn't good. Zeitler was at least average, better than average. PFF really liked Zeitler. But right now, you don't like what you have there. You need a center, at least to compete with Schlottman and Slater. You need a guard at least to compete with Volson and Slater. So those positions remain up in the air. So I don't know that the floor has gotten any better there. Now, if you bring in 2 pieces there to compete or to go on top into those 2 blank spots, I think maybe you have better depth with Schlottman, with Volson. I don't know that Deculus is anything better at the outside tackle than you had last year in Tony Udo, who I like. So I'd say that's a wash at best. Quarterback depth, obviously better with Trubisky than it was with Brandon Allen. And I'm expecting something to happen at running back, even if it's not Jeremiah Love. It's going to be a mid-round running back coming in there. So how do we feel about the overall floor? Maybe a little bit better, but I think we got to see the draft there. Got to see the draft there. So offensively, we don't know yet. We need to see the draft, right? But I think it's really about defense on that. Let's see what you guys have to say so far. Coaching raises the floor, Focus says, and results raise the floor. I think that's the key. CRA says much better. Wandale is a 1,000-yard receiver in the last several weeks of the season. Once the offense was doing better, Ridley wasn't there, so we've added Wandale and Ridley. Yeah. Take away Okonkwo, who was, leader in receptions. But I think it's good to go more towards receiver there. It's a 17-game season, says Rel. A wide receiver should easily hit 1K. Well, that's kind of unfair because it depends on your pass distribution. I mean, if you're throwing to a guy regularly, yeah, he should hit 1,000. But if you're spreading the ball out, if you're playing more too tight and there are fewer snaps for wide receivers, it's hard to say. Your number one should definitely hit 1,000. I would say that's fair. Pitbull says we need immediate impact offensive skill players in the first 2 rounds. Get a center in the middle rounds and fill out your roster the rest of the draft. It's a good start. Flipping the roster. All right, if you want to jump the line with a question, Super Chat gets you to the front, and that is up and running. So check out Super Chat if that's your cup of tea. Super Chat. Thundering says Schlotman is the plan at center, so you should get comfy with that. I don't know why people are so scared of that. Well, they said he's coming in to compete. I was told he's coming in to compete. So I don't know how you could be so definitive that he's the plan at center. Why are you so definitive? Have you talked to Saleh, Borgonzi, Brinker, Carmen? Like, it's not a definite thing that he's the plan at center. They might be, and maybe that'll be fine, and maybe that won't be. Nicholas says the Wandale signing at that number is receiving a lot of heavy eye rolls from national media. Well, some of the eye rolls at the 19.5 average, which is if he maxes it out. 17.5, I don't think is that out of control. He's not strictly a slot. He played 43% outside last year. Titans are going to play more too tight, like we've talked about, and he'll be on the field, I think, as one of their top 2 receivers, certainly at the beginning. So we'll see. You want to look at the defense in this same way? Defense last year. Sebastian Joseph Day, gone. Tavondre Sweat, gone. Arden Key, gone. 3 out of the 4 on the front line of the defense, gone. Obviously changing the shape of that. Jihad Ward, also gone. So there are the 5 that would have been up front. Cedric Gray, a riser at inside linebacker. Cody Barton, disappointment, and I don't think he gets any better in the new shape defense. Cornerbacks were obviously a mess. Kyer Elam, Keemon Hall, and Daryl Baker Jr. I think most Titans fans would have a hard time naming that group at the end of the season. Even Marcus Harris was out there at the end, but that's a complete revamp. Amani Hooker, Kendall Brooks was out. Kevin Winston, obviously a starter there. That is a shit defense at the end of the season. So what they moved on to, this end spot at the top. A lot of people are misperceiving that a Bain or a Bailey would be playing behind Jermaine Johnson. A Bain or a Bailey or a Reese slide right into that wide 9 defensive end spot there. Franklin Myers and Simmons together in the middle, Jermaine Johnson on the other side, the bigger end spot with Femi behind him, Malik Herring over there. These guys can move around, but that defensive end spot, the wide 9-7 defensive end spot, right now Jacob Martin is at the head of the line over there, and you'd want him to be a 2 at best, That's where Jalen Harrell and Allie Gay are. They've got, look, some bodies and some depth. John Franklin Myers, Jordan Elliott. That's should be too deep, you would think. Jeffrey Simmons, Solomon Thomas, definitely too deep there. And then Thomas certainly can kick outside. Femi in a spot that you would want him in. And then maybe if he takes off there, Jermaine Johnson in the last year of his contract, you're re-signing him if he takes off. Or Femi's great. You know, he can move up a spot. But there's a lot of depth there for them to play with and sort through. Now, they're going to have 8 or 9 active on a game day. So let's just say we go first team there, you got 3. Second team, you got Martin, Elliott, Thomas, and Femi. Plus the draft pick, that'll get you to 8. You know, and somebody like Horn or Herring forcing their way in. We'll see. Adam, am I crazy or hasn't Ridley been more productive in the slot in his career? If they rotate in and out of the slot with the others playing outside, is that beneficial for matchups? Well, certainly in a game you could do it and mix it up. Matchup by matchup in a week to week, it is a very interesting possibility. But Wandale is the most natural guy in the slot. Ridley is, I would think, depending on how he recovers from this, the fastest guy and the biggest deep shot guy, depending on who they draft. And so, I think in 3 wide, most of the time we're going to see Wandale in the slot, but not absolutely married to the slot. I'd say he's going to be there 55% of the time. And when he's not there, it'll be mostly because they're in 2 wide. But Riddler gets some turns there. I don't think he's been, I mean, off the top of my head, I wouldn't say he's been most productive in the slot in his career. I think he's productive running some inside stuff, certainly. But they need Ridley to be effective running outside routes. And he and Ward to time up those outside routes better than they did, particularly early in the season. Part of that's Cam timing up his deep ball stuff. Part of that is what does Dayball draw up for them up down the side. Part of that's playing that stuff off of stuff that they do underneath with Wandale and whoever else to play off of that. So, Caden, what has been the weakness in Salah's defense? Well, if you don't get there with 4, you've got trouble. And I can't tell you the specifics about beating cover 3, which is what they tend to start with on the back end. But they need linebackers who can run and cover. So I tell you, the weakness of this defense will be if they don't have linebackers who can run and cover. And right now, they've got one in Cedric Gray who you could feel about being good in the run and cover area. But you don't feel good about Cody Barton run and cover. I don't know that James Williams and Cedric Gray are the right pairing. That's another spot where I think there still would be somebody incoming there. Either one of these older veterans who's still around after the draft, if you don't find what you want in the draft, or a draft pick who could come in and do some of those things. I don't think it's going to be Sonny Styles, but I think there's some guys round 3, round 4 who could be appealing additions to this defense. Now, that strong side linebacker is going to play very little. And you could conceivably put one of your smaller ends in that spot at times, but they play so much nickel, that guy's not going to be get a lot of snaps. Not going to get a lot of snaps. Happy Friday, Kane. Good to see you. What is the hesitancy to trade for a starting caliber X receiver? What starting caliber X receiver is on the market? And the hesitancy to trade is they want to develop their own guys and not go out and get somebody else's guys. They want draft picks. Let's finish this defense here. So we talked about the defensive guys on the line of scrimmage being better. Talked about the Barton weakness. Look, yes, Alante Taylor can play in the slot, but I think they're looking for another slottish cornerback with Marcus Harris, probably to go ahead of Marcus Harris. Flott and Taylor as the starting corners are a huge upgrade over what they had. Not fantastic. I mean, they can play better than they've played. I think they're ascending players. They're viewed as ascending players. Joshua Williams, long with potential. Still could use another one here. Hooker and Winston, we saw that coming a year ago. If Winston plays some slot for some occasions, then you need somebody to come in there. The most likely candidate would be Tony Adams, who plays a good center field, can play a good center field, but gets lost, misses tackles, has some problems. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I think the floor is way up on the defense, and that is pre-draft way up. I mean, we talked about Rob Neal saying, if not Love, Styles could be that linebacker that elevates the D with his ability to cover, blitz, and shadow running backs, tight ends, or running quarterback. Well, Robert Saleh's defense doesn't really want to blitz a lot, so his ability to blitz is not as attractive a commodity as it would be for some other teams. And this shadowing running backs and TDs or running quarterbacks. Running quarterbacks is certainly big, but that shadowing running backs and TEs is going to come out of nickel. And I don't know. Obviously, if you have Fred Warner, you've got a lot of things. And this guy could be Fred Warner. But I think you're hard-pressed to use number 4 on a position that might have even less positional value than running back. I have no reason to believe Winston is not healthy now, but get updates on some of those things soon. I think James Williams could jump Martin during the offseason. Yes, but I'd rather it be somebody completely from the outside. I think Barton is best served to be now depth and a special teamer. Bo asks, with more 2 tight end sets coming with Dayball's scheme, what's more likely on the 53? 4 tight ends or 6 wide receivers? In New York, Dayball kept both 4 tight ends and 6 wide receivers, only 3 running backs. I would have no problem with the math adding up like that. Depends on what they add at running back, then what that makes them decide. With Pollard, if they get Love, I don't think they need Pollard, though it's a good insurance policy if somebody gets hurt. I don't think you can have a scenario where Spears is your number 1 running back. And so if you drafted Love or somebody else and you got rid of Pollard, then your backup running back is Spears. That's insufficient. He can't be your number 1 running back. He can't run between the tackles. So I think you'd have to have somebody on your practice squad that you could elevate at the very least to do that. So I would see one more player there, whether that's 4th tight end or 4th running back, or if you're upping that and just have 4 tight ends, 6 wide receivers, and a 4th running back or 3 tight ends with a handy 4th tight end on your practice squad and a 7th wide receiver. DK's your returner, so you got a benefit there in terms of the numbers game. Thunder says, I'm loving our defense except the linebacker group. Gray is good, but we need more. I would like to take Reese at 4 and put him at will. Reese is excellent playing the spy and is so fast in space. I mean, they've said their intention. Borgonzi, talking at the combine, said, if you have a guy like Reese who's got pass rush skills, you start him as pass rush. Looking for a cloth here. Somebody's asked me to wipe my lens. Bear with. That's better. Unsmudged. So I think Mullings is really in play for much usage this year. I mean, we'll see. He didn't get a fair look last year because he was hurt, but he's more of a short yardage guy. And, it's a little bit of a luxury. So we'll have to see about that. The floor, says Dark Star, is high-level defense dragging an offense that stalls frequently towards 500. What is up, Pitbull? I say draft a center to develop. Who are the top centers coming out of the draft? Who else is left from free agency? Ethan Posick is left in free agency, but he's recovering from an injury. He wouldn't be ready till later. There might be one or two more. Let me get here to I've got a list here. These are this is from the consensus big board, which can be a handy resource in some regards. So these are the top interior offensive linemen. The first center there is Connor Lew. Hecht is a center. Slaughter is a center. Logan Jones, I don't think is a center. But these guys, I mean, if they traded down and took Ioane in the first round, I think that there'd be pitchforks and torches in Nashville at another offensive lineman, a guard. Talk about low positional value in the first round. And Skoronski's turning out to be a very good player, but you just can't take another one in the first round. And the Titans have pick 4, pick 35, pick 66, So I'm not sure about the quality of the fits here. You want Rutledge at 66, Lew at 66, or a trade down in the third, or with an extra pick. If you got an extra pick there in the third, I'd have no objection to that. But if you're only making 3 picks in the first, second, and third, it'd be hard for me to see you taking one, but you might. Well, now 101, I think that's a perfect spot for an offensive lineman. And if things panned out according to a list like this, I could see Logan Jones being a guy that the Titans would take. Jake Slaughter's a name right out of Central Casting. Nicholas says, Jake Slaughter and Jackson Slater would undoubtedly cause some problems. So that would be a pain in the ass. So, I mean, you want to see them take a guy as high as 66 at that thing? All right, here's interesting from Dalen. Dalen first says, have I heard about Rutledge almost having his foot amputated a few years ago? Heard it just the other day. Hadn't seen anything on that until now. I mean, if he almost had it amputated and he's played on it since then, I don't have nearly as big a concern of it. Ben Jones was on Andrew Rising's show, and he said he'd start Schlotman with his experience in Dayball's offense, even with limited starts, and draft a center in round 4. Now, again, you can't prescribe center in round 4, not knowing what centers are there, not knowing what you've done in the first 3 rounds and all of that. So, but, yeah, Titans hype song playing in the background. That's not what this song is known as nationally or historically. People don't hear Ring of Fire and go, oh, the Titans hype song. But funny nonetheless. Look, if they wind up starting Schlotman and have some kind of resolution at right guard with a higher draft pick or with Zeitler back, I'd be fine. I think it would be very hard. Titans have issues at center and right guard, and I think it'd be very hard if right now they went with 2 guys who I was told are here to compete in Schlotman at center and Volson at right guard. Schlotman, who is a backup for the Giants, and Brian Daboll played 4 good games late in the season, subbing for injury. And Volson, who didn't play last year at all because of a shoulder injury. If one of them plays and you find a solution at the other spot, that's an okay scenario. If you're playing both of them, if 2/5, if 40% of your offensive line are guys where you're really crossing your fingers and counting on Carmen Brasillo, your new offensive line coach, to get the most possible out of them, it seems a little bit too prayerful for me. And I would say the Titans go into the season with big offensive line concerns again. I think they need a significant upgrade in profile, in pedigree at one of those spots for people to have significant confidence in the group on opening day. That's where I feel like things need to be. Now, they may not have the luxury, the resources, the whatever in order to be able to do that. So we'll see. When I think Dallas, I haven't put this into a trade chart, which I don't have in front of me, so somebody could pop it into the Jimmy Johnson trade chart. 12 and 20 for 4 from Dallas. They get Love to prevent him from going to Washington and an edge to replace Parsons. I don't think Dallas drafts Jeremiah Love to prevent him from going to Washington. That's not a very good drafting strategy. And they've got Williams there. So to get an edge rusher, maybe. Value is higher for Dallas's 2 picks, I'm told here, so the Titans would have to give something back. Would their 4th be good enough? 12 and 20. Is it 20 for 4 and 101? Richard says he was listening to Suss yesterday on 440. He made a great case for a wide receiver edge at 4. Not going into next year having not filled one of the 3 premium positions. I agree. I just don't know that Carnell Tate is worth 4. To me, in the trade down scenario, and Mike Herndon wrote about at paulkuharsky.com today, a piece you should be reading, wrote today about Love scenario, an end scenario, and a trade down scenario. To me, in the trade down scenario, which I don't think is incredibly likely because I don't know who's coming up for what, but if you're in a trade down scenario, then Carnell Tate becomes, to me, a primary target. If you're in the 8, 9, 10 range. But I just, it doesn't feel like he's valued at 4. And I think Mekhi Lemon is a very good receiver, but he's a slot. Now I understand, expanding his role in the NFL, but I think coming in as a slot, I don't know. I'm a little wary of that. I'm wary of everybody in this draft. Very wary. Nicholas. I was calling him Schlotman, and I think it's pronounced Schlotman. But surely you're aware of him and the level of fan that you are. Girls in Their Summer Clothes by Springsteen playing behind me, a very heading into spring song. I don't like it as much as a lot of people like it, but I understand there's appreciation for it. Logan Jones is a center. Dalen says probably their best pick at 101 if we could land. get some papers organized over here. I mean, I think in those first 4 picks, you got to have an offensive line. And I think before the draft's over, you got to have a tackle, developmental tackle that hopefully can be somebody that Russillo can get in position to potentially be at least your swing tackle in a year. And I really think Jackson Slater's got to be a factor for you this year. Got to be your first off the bench interior guy at the very least. And I would like to see him be a candidate to start. I think he should be a candidate to start. I do not know much about any 7th round prospect. I'm going to confess. And when I do my mocks, like you guys do, I'm sure, in front of the TV at night when you roll up one of the apps and start to fire off some picks and make some trades and all of that stuff, I usually only go through the 4th round. See what I can do trade-wise, see who's on the board in certain situations and all of that. How do I think the Titans feel about J.C. Latham? I think they're encouraged, eager to see what he does. I think the expectation would be that this coaching staff gets through to him in a way that maybe the other coaching staff failed to, which was unfortunate. He had a real serious mindset last offseason about losing the weight and everything, but I think when things did not go his way, part of which was the hip setting him back early, he did not do a good enough job fighting through it. I think he needs a good culture around him, which should be better this year. I think Zeitler's good for him. I think it would be far better for him if there was a veteran next to him than a kid. So that's part of, if you've got Volson, who's not that experienced, who's going to be a comeback story of his own, if he's the guy there, that takes a little bit away from J.C. Latham. There are some issues all around. So I think people question here, the O-line is really a big issue. Not many are talking about it. I think we're talking about it. I think people are surprisingly, wisely being patient and understanding that this thing's not done. And the people who are overly anxious about it, I would say that. Like, hey, let's see what they do in the draft, and let's see what they do immediately after the draft in terms of a veteran. And then it would be time to panic. Look, here, the CRA says riding of Udo and Hance for Volson and Decalis was terrible. It's my only issue with the new coaches. We have rid of prior people here, even if they're better options. Do we know? Look, Carmen Bracillo is universally viewed as a really good hire by them. Now, I thought Udo was good. Hance didn't play enough before he got hurt for us to really know, right? I thought that they would re-sign Udo. But as far as I know, has he signed or is Udo still on the market? Decalis is not, doesn't come with an impressive resume. But if Bracillo and Dayball and Sala and the front office are looking at Decalis and thinking, hey, there are a lot of qualities here that I like in this guy, and we think we can develop him into a good swing tackle, and the price is right, and his attitude is right, and everything we've heard about him is right. And his price point is better than Udo's somehow or whatever. This is a place I think that you should have some faith in the new coaches. And I said this about Corey Levin. People were gaga over Corey Levin. Oh, how could you let Corey Levin go? It's okay for the new coaches to like a different group of secondary and tertiary players. Okay, Udo signed with the Cardinals. it's okay for the new staff to like a different group of players for these smaller roles. Now, Nicholas has sucked, but he could come in and be better than you expect. I don't know what the odd ching is, Ed Henry. PFF is not the whatever, but if we closed our eyes and didn't know names, we were told we acquired the 11th ranked center last year, would we be concerned? I think that's Schlotman. Thing is that he is the 11th ranked center based off 4 games as opposed to based off 14 games. But I take your broader point for sure. You're saying the quality of Nicholas gives the Titans their usual Dennis Daly or NPF or Dillard. We always have to have one that will kill us. Other regimes gave you those guys, and I think this regime deserves its chance to give you something else. I tried to check in on Zeitler today. Haven't heard anything back at this point. It seems to me everything's on pause there. Schlotman, Dalen says, is going to be fine to start the season with the understanding that whatever rookie we draft takes over, hopefully during the season. That's what they did with Nate Davis. I don't remember who played ahead of Nate Davis his rookie year, but wasn't going great. And their intention was to get Nate Davis out there eventually. And I remember him starting in Atlanta, and I think that was week 5. So they went with a veteran who wasn't great for the first 4 games of the season. Then they plugged Nate Davis in. And Dalen asks, is Schlotman tougher than a $2 steak? Look, obviously, Vrabel and his regime really liked Aaron Brewer. He just needed more time, maybe a better staff or a different staff. But Brewer took off in Miami this year and played far better than he's played. Jamil Douglas played ahead of Nate Davis. He took off Brewer in a way that I don't think many of us would have foreseen when he got to Miami. Let's repost this on Twitter, get a few more people in here. And if you're watching on X, please follow. If you're watching on YouTube, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. If you're listening later on Apple, on iHeart, on Spotify, please like, rate, review, do whatever you can there to signify in some way that you're going to be back and that you like what you're listening to. That's all a big help to the cause. Appreciate it very much. We've got, I'll hit Super Chats first and then work through the rest here. And I want to tell you about Edley's Barbecue. Great sponsor for me. Locations all over Nashville and the mid-state. Great place for you to eat. Bring somebody for a business lunch. Bring the family for dinner tonight. Come watch one of the games this weekend on their nice TV setup while you have a cold beer, a nice cocktail, along with your delicious meal. Food's terrific. Portion's great. Hospitality's spectacular. If for some reason you can't make it, download the Edley's app. They've got a terrific delivery service that puts things like DoorDash and Grubhub to shame. Very small delivery fee. Fast service. Set it up that it's just like having the restaurant in your house. You cannot go wrong. I always recommend the burnt ends, avocado salad. The wings are really big and delicious. I've had those recently. So you can't go wrong. Edley's Barbecue, 8 locations all around. One of them's close to you. You need to be here, experience the fantastic food. Couldn't be more pleased to call them a partner and work in conjunction with Edley's Barbecue, and I'm grateful for their support. Check them out. Do I get the sense that they're pretty set at linebacker? I do not. I think maybe they like James Williams and they're expecting to play James Williams and Cedric Gray. But Cedric Gray to me is weak side linebacker, and the middle linebacker probably needs to be a touch bigger. But they want those two guys. They're not looking for a thumper so much as they're looking for two guys that can really run and cover some ground. I think that they would probably still like to add somebody that they certainly don't have good depth, even if they like James Williams in that setting. So if we go look at the defense here, as we have it right now, Cody Barton and Dorian Mousey. They added this Mohamed Diabate, who started 14 games for the Browns 2 years ago. So it could be a factor there as well. But I won't be surprised to see them draft somebody in the middle rounds there or sign a veteran after the draft if they don't land somebody they like there. You can always have an extra special teamer there and do some things there. Tank for Jeremiah Smith, Williams says. I don't foresee that. Put a linebacker back there and heave it up. There's my guy. Yeah, I think Focus is expecting another substantial jump from Cedric Gray. He showed a lot last year. I think he's got the potential to be a good player and going to be coached very well. So we will see how it goes. Going to Edley's Nolensville location this week, Rob Nell says. Who's my least favorite fellow reporter asking questions in press conferences? Look, I don't always nail it with my questions in press conferences, but Terry McCormick's hit rate isn't the greatest. Do I think Luke Stocker is the heir apparent if Daboll pulls the LaFleur? I will say they talked a lot about, planning for that and being ready for that, but they didn't really say, what their plan is. And they don't have anybody that's an obvious candidate. I mean, Stocker, I think, will certainly be in the mix for that, but you see this staff operate together for a while. Ted Lewis. Maybe a candidate as well. Yeah. Are we underestimating the value of Schlottman knowing this offense? I don't care how well you know the offense if you don't play well. Know the offense and play well, then sure. Knowing the offense. It's also not the exact same offense. Daboll has said he's going to construct an offense that's appropriate for Cam. So. Wesley says, if one of Bailey or Reese is there and Love is there, what does my gut tell me they do? I think they'll go defense. I do, but I don't know for sure by any means. That's my gut, yes. I still would like Mike says he would still like to see them acquire more top 100 picks this year and next. Why not this year? I think so too. But I will say, when they traded down in the second round last year, they wound up with Femi. And I would have liked to have seen what they could have done with the pick that they had. Though, what's the pick they wound up with? It might have been DK. So, you got to give up something to get something, right? Rob's not worried about losing Daboll. He doesn't see the big coach purge the league had this year. Or you can say if some of these new coaches have success this year, that teams who don't have success next year will pull the plug quickly and say, hey, look, these teams had quick turnarounds, and I want my quick turnaround, and I'm getting out of Dodge. It's not going to be 10, but, if it's 6 and the Titans are good, got a long way to go before Dayball's a hot commodity. But, do I think there's a chance Zeitler and Borgo have a handshake agreement to come back? Maybe Zeitler just wants a longer offseason, skip OTAs, maybe. All things are possible here, but I think it's good for the Titans to have a right guard who doesn't want to be around for OTAs with the new offensive system, a new offensive line coach, new offensive coordinator, new head coach. So possible, but I don't know. Oh, sorry, I missed this. Would Saleh persuade Borgonzi into taking a linebacker in an earlier round? Well, Saleh didn't have to persuade him to do anything. I mean, it's Borgonzi's personnel thing. Saleh makes his case for whatever he wants, but he knows that the GM is making the picks. Caden, I'm sorry I didn't get to this sooner. I mean, they went into this whole thing with the plan. So there's no surprises now. Saleh's not going to walk in and say, hey, you know what? I really want this linebacker earlier than we talked about it. So, they have their linebackers mapped out and they have their plan mapped out. Now, we don't know how much they prioritize that linebacker slot, how down on Barton they are. I presume down. I don't think he's a very good fit for this defense. Don't know what they think of James Williams exactly, and all of that. But, Borgonzi's also got his brother as the linebackers coach. So, yeah. But Borgonzi knows they need a linebacker. So, sorry again for the wait. How long have I been covering Tennessee? I've been covering Tennessee so long that they were Houston when I started covering them. I've been covering this team since 1996. Institutional knowledge you're not going to find anywhere else. Hope I didn't miss anyone else here. I'm scrolling back. Sorry about that. Super chats should be super fast. Super chats, super fast. Did Borgonzi say Love is a generational talent? I don't think so. Who, buddy, says Levis wouldn't be more than a late round pick swap if we trade him. I agree with that. People are way overvaluing Will Levis. I think a lot of these depth free agent guys were brought in to help other players understand the system and terminology. Also, backups don't practice much. Good to have a knowledgeable vet as a floor. Backups practice plenty in training camp. And so that's significant. And look, how many of these guys are, third string per se? Malik Herring, maybe. Diabate, who they didn't have a previous relationship with. That's on defense. Otherwise, everybody's first or second string. Offense, Bellinger is second string, but in a 2 tight end set, he's a starter. Volson could be second string depending on what happens at right guard. Schlotman could be second string depending on what happens at center, but he probably is they are both starters at the start of OTAs, it looks like. So I wouldn't I don't think there's anybody that far down the depth chart. William is very optimistic. He says if Dayball turns the Titans around, he can write his own ticket. My bet, we make the playoffs next year. It's a hell of a jump. Teams do it. It's not very Tennessee-like to be one of those teams that do it, but teams do it. So, You're so bad. Nicholas hits the soundtrack and plugs in Cody Barton. Do I think Jordan Tyson could be off their board with his injury history? I don't know if he's off their board, but he probably drops down their board far enough that somebody else has taken him before they do. Certainly discouraging how hurt he is. I have written, do I think the Titans view Slater as a guard or more of a center? I wrote a piece about Slater maybe 3 weeks ago, and one of the people in there told me that he couldn't keep on weight last season. And during the course of that, they gradually came to think of him as more of a center because of that. I don't think there's any chance of this, that they already have a verbal agreement with a player like Zeitler that allows us to use his absence as a smokescreen in the draft. That's why. So teams think the Titans are taking a center in the 3rd or 4th round, and the Titans plotted that out with Zeitler weeks ago. Hey, we really want to fool some teams in the 3rd and 4th round into thinking that we're taking a right guard. So we've got a handshake deal, but let's not tell anybody. First off, secrets don't really hold like that. And if you're tricking people, you want to trick them with higher stuff than that. I don't know. That's a little much for me. A little much for me. Well, I talk a little bit. I wrote this week about bonuses tied to availability. It's not a lot of money. It's like 5% of the money the Titans are paying out in cash in 2026 to 14 of the free agents whose money we know, 14 of the contracts that have guaranteed money in them. But I want to point out that, like, to somebody like John Franklin Myers, it's like 2-point-something% of the total money he can earn this year. Not that big a deal, his per-game bonuses. But to somebody like Tony Adams, it's pretty significant. It's almost 20% of the money that he can make. And the Titans did this. You know, I talked to Eric DaCosta about this at the Combine. I talked to Brett Veach about this at the Combine. They both said they are doing it more, want to do it more, but then they didn't do it, really, with their free agent classes. And meanwhile, the Titans did it with virtually everybody. And so I like it, you know, and I don't think it pressures a guy into playing, but and the Titans certainly, you know, don't want guys playing who aren't ready to play, and it doesn't really benefit you if a guy is dragging a leg around and can't run, or if he's going to re-injure himself and set back his rehab. They're very serious about sports science and return to play and all of those kind of things. But if Tony Adams, you know, is right there on the fence and he's got, you know, not insignificant money attached to him playing this week, a little extra doesn't hurt. And, you know, Titans used to have it on their weight room wall. The best ability you have is availability. I think that overstates a little bit. If you're slow, your availability doesn't trump your inability to run. But I think it's an interesting contract mechanism that they're using more and more, and should use more and more, and the league should use more and more. So. I wish I knew this name better. Jern Scores. Which room looks the most crowded to me and is most likely to shed some talent? I mean, DMR. Is DMR some talent? Or is DMR like the next best guy they had at tight end? I mean, if they shed DMR, are they shedding talent? I'm not real concerned about the fate of DMR. So, I don't think that the tight end room is super talented and that they'll be giving up some talent there if they cut DMR. DMR hasn't done anything. So, I mean, I think they'll probably wind up cutting a good defensive lineman if they're all healthy, based on the additions they made. I mean, but we'll see. We'll see. Easy to see, Ed Henry says. From free agency, how much influence the coaching staff had? Do you think that's a front office mindset change as opposed to the relationship they had with the previous less experienced staff? I don't know. Bill Callahan had a lot of influence. Sadiq Charles wound up here because of Bill Callahan. J.C. Latham was the pick because of Bill Callahan. So I think the coaching staff looks to have had too much influence. What's the pro scouting department doing during all of that? I mean, we'll have to see how it comes out in practice. But seems like a lot. Seems like a lot. We'll wrap it up with one or two more. Absent some catastrophic injuries, the Titans defense will be much better. Higher floor. Special teams will be good because of Fossil. So the 2026 season hinges on the offense. Is that about right? So it's Dayball and Ward, more or less. Well, I mean, defense looks better on paper. It's got to be better in practice. And it can take 2 years to get that defense where you want it to be. Still have slower safeties than you want. Winston, to me, is more of a box safety than I'd like. I'd like one of those two starting safeties to be able to really turn and run. Now, maybe Winston's better at that in his second year than he was in his first year. That second linebacker spot worries me a little bit. But I'm optimistic about that pass rush with 4 if they plug that wide 9 spot. That's why I'm looking for him to probably use that number 4 pick to draft an end. And that would give them a pretty complete defense. And then, I'd like to see him take a running back somewhere along the way as a weapon for Ward and for the offense, and then get a receiver in there. Fix that offensive line, and you got a chance. We'll see how much better the coaching is. It's been a while since Dayball was just an offensive coordinator, and he had a much better quarterback. So how he develops Cam Ward is certainly one of the biggest questions and biggest storylines that the Titans will have this year. I recently told my media ethics classes at Belmont the story about don't block the box. I taught them how not to block the box. And I told them the long version of the story about be sure to lock your locks. And so as I send you into the weekend, I encourage you, don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks. I appreciate you all being here. Spread the word. Join paulkuharsky.com. For less than a cup of coffee, a beer, or a cocktail, you get all my Titans news and analysis. You get Drew Beatty, you get Blake Bedingfield, you get Mike Herndon, and it's the best way to support independent Titans journalism. Come check us out. Thanks, everybody.